Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is Carlos Mendoza for the ALD Square certification. This time I will be providing you with my teachback regarding backward design, completing the activity that we have assigned as part of the certification. In this case, just read the instruction that we have for the teachback. It says that we need to create and record a video making sure to answering certain questions in which how we actually were able to apply the backward design methodology that we reviewed during this pre-work. The three questions that I'm going to be answering, and also I'm going to be sharing with you what has been also the topic that I'm going to be delivering. The questions are: who is going to be your audience? What are the learning goals? What would you consider acceptable evidence? And also, what will be a good learning activity? So those actually are going to be the questions that I'm going to be answering throughout this video. And in this case, the topic that I select out of the list of three that we have, that one was teaching the dog how to sit, the second one is planning your first Uber drive. I pick in this case the third one, that is preparing for your driver test. With this one, we need to take into consideration the following. Using the backward design, the first thing that is asked to us is actually determine what's going to be our goal. In the identifier, in this case, what's going to be our desired result. So based on that one, in selecting this topic, the desired goal for actually preparing for a driver test is actually because your goal at the end is going to be pass the test and therefore get your driver license. So that out of the backward design, the first stage in this case is going to be that one, that we're identifying the result that we would like to achieve with this one is going to be get our driver license. Now moving on to answer the questions that we have regarding this. Who's your audience? In this case, we're actually talking about people that are planning to complete the driver license test. So actually they can go ahead and complete this one. So that's actually what we have the goal to our audience that actually we're going to be focusing that module. For example, we create something that actually makes sure that people is able to complete that assessment. This is actually the people that we're going to be focusing on delivering this type of training. Now, talking about the learning goals, basically based on the planning that I was able to make using this methodology, I ended up with three different objectives. That in this case are try to associate with them with using the Bloom taxonomy, but most important, making sure that I'm selecting more applicable objectives rather than just analytic or just getting the idea for some details, because at the end we're actually looking for learning goals that actually we are able to measure, and actually most important that they focus on being smart. So in that case, the three learning objectives that I designed for this module that in case we created are going to be: the first one, explain the basic of how a car mechanism work, because of course if you're going to be doing this assessment focus on the driver license, most likely you will have certain questions asking you details like, okay, if this happened to your car, what you should do to troubleshoot this issue that is happening, for example. So that's the reason why I have this objective. The second one is going to be demonstrate that you can actually drive a car, because part of getting the driver license is just not completing a theoretical test. It's actually the fact that you will be asked to drive for specific places and make sure that you follow all the guidelines, like the manual for driving, etc., etc. So it is important that you're capable to actually demonstrate this one. And the third goal, or my learning goal that I have created for this methodology, is going to be resolve the knowledge assessment regarding the rules and regulation of your country to get the driver license. Of course, here in El Salvador, for example, there are different like apps that you can actually download through your cell phone, either iOS or Android, in which you can take like some. They are actually tests based on the real one that you will be taking once actually you go to the place to get your driver license. So this will be like different tests for saying like that, that you will be that you can use to actually to practice and to enhance that actually you have the knowledge to get it through the process of getting the driver license test. Now, talking about backward design, we need to determine what is actually an acceptable evidence. And by looking at the example, with this one I was able to determine that actually we were looking mainly to what activities should I need to consider to make sure, okay, what I'm asking on my goals, am I going to be able to achieve that one by completing these specific activities, or what I'm doing is actually totally the opposite from what my goal is throughout my objectives. So what I will consider acceptable evidence for this particular scenario, I actually mentioned 3 different things. The first one is going to be practicing with the car in different areas like the road in my neighborhood, for example, going on the main highway and taking a roundabout. Because in this case, these are actually mainly places when you're actually doing your test in the car, you will be asked actually to go not just on a regular straight road, for saying like that, and just go from the beginning to end. No, they actually will challenge you to go, like for example, places where you will face traffic, that there will be some complications. So to actually make sure that you're able to drive safely and also following the guidelines established by your country. A second acceptable evidence is going to be reading the driver license manual to be aware of the different signs, as well to get to know the law, what is allowed and what is prohibited, of course. For example, you'll need to determine that based on the signals that you saw throughout the road, for example, when turning U is going to be allowed, when one is not going to be allowed. If, for example, a specific road is just one way, or actually it has 2 different ways for one going and one returning. So all those information is going to be actually displayed throughout the manual. So for that reason, it's very important that actually you read this one so you make sure that you're able to understand all these particular components. And the third acceptable evidence is going to be understand that in a case of an infraction, there will be a monetary consequences that you will need to pay once you get your driver license. Of course, as we know, if for example we ended up doing something bad, most likely there's going to be a consequence to that. So these type of consequences or penalties or tips that actually you will need to pay for infracting the rule are actually displayed through this manual. So you need to be aware, because of course when you are doing or completing the test, they actually are going to be covering everything from how you can handle your car, how you can use it, what is the meaning of certain sign, and also what will happen if, for example, you violate one of those rules, what's going to be the penalty, how much you actually need to pay for that infraction that you ended up causing. And at the end, the third question is going to be what will be a good learning activity. In this case, I tried to go straight to actually what I will do to make sure that I put in practice what they have been reviewing throughout the module, and make sure that they are prepared to the final goal that's going to be complete and be prepared for the driver's test. So for this one, actually, I plan in 2 learning activity. The first one is going to be if, for example, you don't have the access to a car, the best thing that you can do is go to the nearest driver license school and invite you. So in this case, the people can sign with them, so they can actually have like a coach that actually they have a car that they can use actually to practice and start learning, for example, how to start the car, how to turn off the car, if, for example, if it is an automatic, how an automatic car should work, if it's a manual transmission, how that one will work, etc., etc. So they actually start going to classes, they start putting on practice everything that actually is displayed or is going to be presented to them. Or if, for example, within the class we get to have someone that probably has a car but still is in the process of getting the driver license or getting the driver test. We can use, for example, that person's car, put in certain notifications around the car that give visibility to other drivers that, hey, we have someone that is learning how to drive a car. So please be aware, watch out, because we don't want to have any type of accident. So that's going to be the first learning activity. In this case, get to a place where actually you can have a car you can start practicing what you actually have learned throughout the theory. And then second one that is related to what I was mentioning a few moments ago is the fact that actually you need to have or you can download the assessment app in your cell phone so you can start practicing and completing, in this case, the activities and the questions that you need to answer once actually the date for your appointment to the driver test will actually come up. So those are actually basically the three questions that we have asked for the backward design, and this is actually the approach that I will give to each one of them. I actually take as an example one that actually we have displayed throughout the workshop, and I try to actually go with that same methodology to actually use that one onto this scenario that I hope actually I get to that particular point. So with that one, actually it concludes my teachback. Thank you very much for your attention and have a great day.